Hello viewers, if you're new to cruising like my wife and I, don't just look at the itinerary of the cruise. It's also important to do a bit of research into the ship you'll be sailing on. My wife and I took our first cruise to Alaska in August 2023 on the Norwegian Bliss, and we absolutely loved it. And so for our next cruise we booked to go on the Norwegian Sun for a 14-day cruise, leaving Melbourne, Australia and finishing up in Auckland, New Zealand. In our naivety, we thought that all ships in the Norwegian fleet would be similar and give us a similar cruising experience. But when we boarded the Norwegian Sun, we were a little taken aback by how small the ship was compared to the Norwegian Bliss. It felt like we weren't with Norwegian Cruise Lines anymore, but with a completely different cruise company. We could tell immediately that this was a much older and much smaller ship. Here's some stats. The Bliss was launched in 2018, while the Sun entered service in 2001, and is 17 years older than the Bliss. The Bliss can accommodate over 4,000 passengers, while the Sun can accommodate just under half of that. The Bliss has 20 decks, while the Sun has only 12. And the Sun is close to 100 yards shorter than the Bliss. It just lacked the glitz and glam that we enjoyed on the Bliss. On the Bliss, the nightly entertainment in the theatre featured Broadway shows like The Jersey Boys and Six. But on the Sun, there weren't any Broadway shows. I recently found out that Norwegian has made some cutbacks on expenditure, and a large part of this has been to cut into the evening entertainment. I don't know if that's why we didn't get Broadway shows or not, but definitely something to keep in mind. The evening entertainment on the Sun consisted of magic shows, comedian, a Latin dance show, rock and roll show. All good entertainment, but not quite Broadway standard. There's a main lounge area on the Sun, ironically called the Bliss Lounge, and this was a popular meeting spot in the evenings, but usually featured entertainment with audience participation such as karaoke and quiz games. The breakfast buffet wasn't really big enough to accommodate the number of passengers, and we very often resorted to eating our breakfast outside on the back deck, while braving the Antarctic winds coming across the Southern Ocean. The cleanest air in the world, however. I must add that the breakfast buffet was the same every morning. No variety here. The Four Seasons dining room just below the theatre was superb. This was included with the cost of your cruise and was a wonderful fine dining experience. You really didn't need the specialty dining package because the Four Seasons restaurant was so good. While we're talking about optional extras such as the specialty dining package, if you use the Bank of America Norwegian Cruise MasterCard, you can accrue onboard credits and use those towards an upgraded dining package or land excursions or any number of onboard extras. However, you can only use onboard credits when you're actually on board. So here's the rub. As you get closer to your sailing date, the cost of these optional extras goes up, thus devaluing your onboard credits. So you can either pay earlier with cash and get a lower price, or use onboard credits on board and pay a higher price. The upside to being on a smaller ship like the Norwegian Sun is it is quieter, the elevators weren't jam-packed like on the Bliss, and it didn't take long to figure out where everything was. A different experience to being on the newer, bigger Norwegian Bliss. It depends on what you're looking for in your cruising experience. So before you book your cruise, don't just look at the itinerary, but look at what ship you'll be on too. There are plenty of videos on YouTube to learn about your ship, and plenty of information on Google too. I hope this has helped you folks new to cruising. Remember, not all ships in the fleet are the same. Happy cruising.